Right, Katie Flowers, Tarot Obsessed. I'm not going to give a load of preamble because there's probably about 11, maybe not 12 now, videos out there. So y'all know what it's all about. So I'm just going to dive right in. Wish me luck. It's a lot of questions. What was your very first tarot deck? It was a well-battered Aquarian deck that a friend gave to me. I must have been about 16, maybe 17. She hadn't worn it to death. It had been worn to death by person or persons prior to her getting it. And that was done in a period of about 7 years. It came out about 7 years before it was given to me, and it was well trashed. I didn't really take to it. I liked it. I love the images. I still love the images, but somehow, as my first deck, it just wasn't happening. So I eventually got myself a Rider-Waite-Smith, and you've all heard that story. So, moving on. What is your current favorite tarot deck? Well, apart from the Rider-Waite-Smith, which is my favorite, I love that deck. That to me is, you know, that's what tarot's all about. And I know some people will really cringe about that, but that was my first deck. That's what I learned with. That's what, at the time, you know, I really thought that was tarot. And I love it still, so it'll always be my favorite. But apart from Rider-Waite-Smith, my favorite is the Eggerov. And I have it here, yes. Or it's sometimes called the Golden Eggerov. And this is a nice little Russian deck. I'm trying to get my fat hands out of the way. In fact, what I might just do is just hold up a card or two. There you go. Very, very nice colors. Let's get something a little bit differently colored. Love it. Yeah, there's just something about this deck. It's Rider-Waite-Smithy enough that I can get on with it, but it's just so beautiful. And actually, I'm looking at the wrong part of the camera again. I'll come back to this one in one of the questions about, you know, how closely does it have to stick to the tarot system. But yeah, that is my favorite deck, apart from Rider-Waite-Smith. Question number 3. What is your most used tarot deck? Rider-Waite-Smith. Next. What is your least used tarot deck? Now this is a bit tricky. I've got quite a few decks that I have never used. I've got a Merlin deck. Not parting with it, but I've never used it. I've never used my Norse tarot. I've never used my Elemental tarot. Yeah, there are others. You know, I could go on and on and on. But of tarot decks that I have used but don't use a lot, Thoth. I like it, but I get the distinct impression it doesn't like me. Yeah, I feel uncomfortable when I'm using it, like it's kind of rolling its eyes at me. So I don't use it very much. Look, I keep glancing at my paper because I have given myself notes because I didn't think I was going to be able to remember all the things I wanted to talk about. Le Tarot Noir. Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, but ginormous cards, a bit weird. I use them for, you know, intention setting, things like that. If I want to put a card up because it says something to me at a particular time and I want to keep seeing it, so I'll put it up on my mantelpiece or wherever so I can see it all the time. That kind of thing. But I don't use it for reading. Bit too big, bit too weird. I like it, but there you go. How did you learn to read tarot? This is question number 5. Sorry if I haven't been saying that. Books, really. I mean, I started to learn tarot in the late 70s, early 80s. I just went to the library and got every book I could find on the subject, and I read every book I could find on the subject, and I made copious notes and rewrote my notes and manually typed up my notes. You know, this is pre-computer, guys. And that was it, and that's how I learned. So that was my book learning. And then when I really came back to working with tarot, it's been about 5 years ago now, then it was all internet. So, you know, websites, videos, fantastic. When you actually see somebody in the flow, you know, and they can sort of point things out to you and say things about the cards and how they interpret cards together, and that just makes a world of difference. And then just being able to talk to people in groups, it's wonderful. I love doing that. videos here on YouTube, you know, of people just talking about the cards. It just makes you look at them and think about them in a different way sometimes. So that's how I learned. Question number 6. What do you use tarot for? Mainly divination, and that can be predictive, it can be insight or insightful, it can be just to kind of dredge up things that you may not have thought of. I use it in magic. I'll use them as intention setters for a spell. I'll just pull cards almost like affirmations or motivation cards, and like I said, like the Tarot Noir, and just put them up somewhere so I can see them. Did I write anything else down? Oh yeah, companionship. I mean, a lot of people have talked about how they just like to sit and shuffle their cards. I mean, I am literally, obviously I have moved up, no privacy downstairs at the moment, so I've moved up here so it's a bit easier and the light's a bit better. And my husband's just come in the door and shouted hello, excuse me. Hi again. Yeah, I didn't want him to think I was ignoring him. He'd come stomping up here to find out what was wrong. So anyway, yeah, so hence the, you know, I tried to make a slightly nicer background than my bare wall. What that's got to do with anything, I don't know. But anyway, companionship. Yeah, you're just sitting and shuffling cards. That's right. I was going to say, where I sit at my desk, I am literally surrounded by cards. I can pick up a deck from any place and just sit and shuffle it, have a chat with it, maybe turn a card, see what it says, ha ha ha, put it back, whatever. You know, it is literally a companion. I love them. So, question number 7. How do you read tarot, i.e. intuition or book? It's a combination. I like to think anyway, I have a solid book background, a solid traditional meaning background, let's say, and when I say this, I'm talking about Rider-Waite-Smith, because that's what I know. I'm learning Marseille, and I'm learning how to read Marseille, using the suits and the numbers and just the way the things line up with each other, and you know, you know, if you know Marseille, you know what I'm talking about. I can't get my mouth around that one this morning. But then beyond that, it's intuition. So if I turn a card over and the first thing I see is the traditional meaning, and that, you know, makes sense with the rest of the spread, then I go with the traditional meaning. If I turn over a card and something completely different pops into my head, I mean, hopefully not completely random, but you know, you never know how intuition's going to work, then I'll go with that, you know, if it makes sense with the rest of the reading. So a bit of both. Boop, 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 boop. Do you use spreads? I do use some simple spreads. I do like to sometimes just pull 3 cards, and they're not past, present, future. They are literally just 3 cards to answer the question, so they get read in combination, a bit sort of cartomantic. I started with the Celtic Cross because that's what you did. And I still use a Celtic Cross, and I love it. I sometimes use it a bit like I use a Grand Tableau. I don't necessarily read every card in every position. I kind of go with the cards that are relevant to the question. I mean, if it's a simple question. I mean, if it's a complicated question, obviously you want to get all the information you can. But sometimes I'll just sort of hone in on the ones that are important. But the other ones are there if I need them, which is a bit how I read a Grand Tableau. I don't read every single card. I just go with the relevant and important information. But yeah, I don't use spreads a lot, but I like them. I have nothing against them. Yeah, enough said, I think. Do you mix tarot? Question number 9. Do you mix tarot with other divination systems? I do sometimes for this sort of general readings I do on Instagram, where I'm just kind of pulling a few cards. They're not for me, they're not for anyone in particular, they're just whatever energy happens to be floating around that day. And then what I like to do is what Tom Benjamin said in his video, is to pull like an oracle card or something of that ilk to set a boundary, or I would say a theme, so that when I pull the 3 tarot cards, it's it's narrowed down the possible meanings for those 3 cards, because they could be myriad. You know, where do you draw the line? So that helps me, as he says, set a boundary for the reading. But generally I don't. If I'm doing a reading, I will only use the 1 deck of cards. I'll decide which ones that's going to be, and then I'll go with it. And I don't tend to mix them up. I think that probably upsets my OCD a bit too much. So, question number 10. What makes a great tarot deck? Oh, that is such a difficult question. What makes a great tarot deck for me is one that stirs something in my soul, that, you know, because there's hundreds and hundreds and thousands of tarot decks out there, and some of the artwork is gorgeous, but I look at them and I go, nah, not for me, not interested. It doesn't do anything for me, doesn't ping anything. And then I'll see one with these simple images, or I don't know, I can't explain it, or maybe not even the kind of artwork I would normally be attracted to, but there's something about the cards, something about the way they flow, something about the story they tell. It's hard to put into words, but it tugs at my heartstrings. It's an interesting deck. I think I require decks to be interesting. They have to have something that makes them a little bit different, or just triggers an emotion in me that another deck doesn't do. That is what makes a great tarot deck for me. You know, I'm not fussed about cardstock. I'll moan if it's too thin, but it's not cardstock. It's not the actual artwork itself. I don't know. It's just got to have something. 11. How important to you is it that a deck stick to the tarot system? And I apologize if I'm speaking very quickly and running through this, but I'm very conscious that everybody's videos are getting a bit long, and I want to kind of keep this a bit shorter. How important to you is it that a deck stick to the tarot system? Okay, I mainly read Rider-Waite-Smith, so if it's supposed to be a Rider-Waite-Smithy deck, then it's important that it sticks in some way to the Rider-Waite-Smith. I've seen decks that, and I could be wrong, but I just looked at the cards and I thought, well, that's kind of Rider-Waite-Smith, but that one's kind of Thoth, and that one's kind of Marseille, and that would drive me nuts. That would drive me nuts. I don't mind variety. I don't mind a bit of creativity. I don't mind titles being changed or things like that. And I'll give you an example. Going back to my Golden Eggeroff, I pulled these 2 out. That man of knowledge is the Emperor. Now you kind of go, that's interesting. I wouldn't have called the Emperor the man of knowledge. And then that made me think, well, what is the Hierophant then? The Hierophant is inspiration. But I can recognize him as the Hierophant, and I can sort of recognize him as the Emperor. I don't have a problem with the fact that they're called different things, or that the intention is different. I can work with that. And the book is very good with this. I mean, he does sort of write about his intentions with these cards and why they are the way they are. There's a few others as well, but that was just the sort of thing. I don't mind that kind of thing. You know, that's fine. If it's a completely different system, I mean, Marseille, you know, go for it. Or you've got something like the Tarot Balbi. Now that's its own thing. There are a couple of other decks. I can't remember. It's a Spanish one. Gran Tarot Esoterico or something like that also follows the same system. But it's its own thing. And that's fine. So like that's the 9 of Swords. Not your typical 9 of Swords. It's not Marseille. It's certainly not Rider-Waite-Smith. What else have we got? Something weird. The major arcana are pretty much as you would expect. So it's like this one here, the 7 of Wands. And that arrangement has a purpose. It has a meaning. You have to go find out what that is. But, you know, and that's fine. Don't have a problem with that. Oh, here we go. Another Rider-Waite-Smith-esque one. Sometimes they take a bit of work. This is the Dark Angels Tarot. And they are very different. But Rider-Waite-Smith, you know, with a bit of, you know, squinting at them, you can work it out. For instance, when I turned that one over the other day, I sort of looked at it and go, what the blazes is that? It sort of looked like the Fool, because you kind of got that sort of precipice-y thing going on there. And it took a while for me to even see the lion head at the top there, to realize that this is actually strength. Oh, it's number 11, you know. And even that, you know, 8, 11, 11, 8, I'm not bothered. You know, but of course, now that I've seen the lion head there, now I go, oh, strength, you know, that's fine, not a problem. But, you know, they are different. You know, but even, like, you can kind of see echoes of the 3 of coins, the Rider-Waite-Smith 3 of coins in that card. That's fine. I have another deck. I won't bring it out now. You know, I have another deck that is kind of its own thing. So, don't mix and match, I think, is the thing I'm getting at. As long as you stick to whatever system you are, that's fine. Number 12. Do you have any backup decks? Well, I have 4 Rider-Waite-Smiths. I've had a few more that I've sort of gotten rid of or gifted it over the years. I've got my blue box, that's my babe. I've got a US Games one from the 80s, which is technically is the backup. But then I also have a pocket one to cart around with me. And I have the Shine one from China that Two Spirit showed in his video, because you just have to. It's just so much fun. So technically I've got 4 Rider-Waite-Smiths. I bought a mini mother piece a while back. It was a bargain on eBay. And I fell in love with it. Absolutely loved it. And of course then I had to get the full-size one, because I had to. So I've got 2 of those. Technically it's not really a backup, but in a way it sort of is. And oh, and then my Russian tarot. Where are you, sweetheart? I love this deck. I got this fairly recently, and I just love it. The colors, there's my favorite card again, are just amazing. I just love the style of it. Yeah. And, but it is a little bit, it's a little bit on the thin side, folks. Not too bad, but I thought, ooh, I can see me doing some damage to this if I love it to death. So I bought a backup. Unfortunately, this one was printed by Vector, and you can see it's kind of nice. It's got, you know, fairly chunky borders, but they're okay. They're sort of proportionally okay with the center. I couldn't get another one of those. I had to get one printed by Exma, I think it was called. And the height's the same, but the cards are like almost a ½ an inch wider, and so the side borders are way too wide on it. I don't like it. I will probably end up chopping those off. But, you know, I'm not rushing to do that because technically it's my backup deck. So, yeah, so that's that. So, yes, that one I definitely have a backup of. Do you have any unusual or unique decks? No. And, Katie, I am so jealous of that German one that you have. I would love one of those. I love the black and white simplicity of it, and the fact that it's German, you know. I want it really bad. Jealous. But no, I don't have anything unusual. I have some uncommon decks, you know, decks that not everybody and their dog has. To be honest, the vast majority of the new decks coming out do nothing for me. Sorry. They're pretty, you know. I don't dislike the images necessarily, but they don't do that thing that a great tarot deck has to do for me. In fact, I haven't even brought any up. What have I written down? Have I written down anything? Oh yes, I have. What have I done with you? Where are you, my baby? Oh, I didn't even get it out of its bag. I can't even see it. Is that it over there? Excuse me. You're probably all going to be wobbling now. I can't even get the whole deck, so I'm just going to grab a few. I've got the Lombardische Tarot, which is it's sort of a Marseille, but it's not actually a true Marseille. It's a Lombardy Tarot, as the name would suggest. It's not difficult to get. It's not expensive. It's not out of print or anything like that. It's just, people just don't have it. I love it. So it's just an uncommon deck. Things like the Corte dei Tarocchi, okay, You can get those. They're not horrendously expensive, but not very many people have that one. Oh, Radiant Wisdom. This was the one I said I'd bring up earlier, because this is, again, how does it have to stick to the tarot system? This one is such kitschy art, but I really like it. I don't know, probably just appeals to the child in me. I love the artwork in this. You know, not as high art, obviously. It's so bad in a way, but I think I like it because it's so bad. But this has an extra suit. And also, on here I should have, the Two of Water, attraction. Okay, I get that. Let's see, we got. Oh, here's an example of the extra suit. It's got a suit of bridges. You know, I have no problem with extra cards. The Eight of Air, so this is the Eight of Swords, is entitled Tradition. You know, that's different. But the image is so different. I'd say, you know, it's one of these, it's close to the edge. It's close to the edge. It's one of these ones I kind of want to call it more of an oracle, and I think in its way I do sort of treat it as an oracle, like the Five of Air Consultation. That's different. Don't know. I gotta watch what I'm doing here, so make sure you can see it properly. Five of Water, Disguise. You know, it's getting to that place where it's not really a tarot anymore. But you know, it's got the major arcana in pretty much unadulterated form. So you know, I just throw that into my uncommon tarot pile. But yeah, the Tarot Balby. Not too many people have a Tarot Balby, I don't think, unless you've all got them and you're just keeping quiet about it. So, but no, nothing unique. What is your current deck crush? A lot of people have been answering this one in terms of the deck they don't have, that they're crushing on and would like to have. And if that's the case, my latest crush is the Star Tarot by Kathy McClelland. And I saw that in one of, oh gosh, First Light Mystics. I always stumble over her name. In one of her videos, she was using that, and I was like, ooh, ooh. So that's my latest crush. But if we're talking about latest crush deck, the deck that you've got, that you're using the most because it's new and fresh and exciting, then that would be the Vice Versa Tarot. Yeah, I got this for my birthday, and this is my latest crush. I've just been playing with this. I just love this business. You know, so I've got some of them turned. I'll just do that. You know, you can see. Yeah, so there we've got the back, front, and some of them are literally just, you know, the back. You know, as if you were looking at it from the other side. But some of them are quite different on the other side. Trust me, I can't find one right now. Oh, no, maybe not. It just looked really different. I don't treat them like reversals. I just treat them as a different perspective. You know, read into what I can actually see in the card that I can't see, you know, on the other side. You know, it's got some significance. It's like, okay, here we have the King of Wands, looking pretty basically King of Wandsy. But on this side, there's a whacking great snake appears above his head. So obviously, that's significant. So that gets interpreted into the reading, or worked into the reading, or interpretation. Okay, I'll get there eventually. Blah. Babbling for too long. So that's my current crush, and honorable mention is my Russian tarot. You know, this little guy, because I'm still so loving this deck, so loving that deck. But yeah, I do have a bit of a crush on the Vice Versa at the moment. Do you read reversals? Number 15, no. Well, no, but pretty much like Katie said, you know, if there's a shadow aspect or a negative aspect or a don't do this instead of do this, or this is a bad thing, not a good thing, I'll get that from the surrounding cards and the rest of the spread. The general tenor of the spread itself will usually make it apparent that, you know, this is a good thing or a bad thing. This can be taken one way or the other. So yeah, again, short answer, no. And finally, number 16. If you could only use one deck, which would it be? It would be my blue box Rider-Waite-Smith. There you go. Easy. So, there you have it, folks. There's my answers. I hope this wasn't too fast, too rambly, too neurotic. And I'm going to go back to watching all the rest of the videos because I've been really enjoying it, but I thought I've got to get this done now because I'm not going to get another chance. And I've managed to keep it under 20 minutes. Yay me! Love you! See you all around. Bye!